everyone, and welcome to my video. This is a little academic conference vlog because I want to talk about this conference that I attended back in November that happened to be in San Francisco. And luckily enough, the same time that the conference was being held, they were running a special manga museum exhibition at the De Young Museum. And I believe this was either the first or one of the largest manga exhibitions to ever be held in the United States. So it's definitely something I had to check out. And it just so happened that my research this time around was on manga. I was presenting a paper on Death Note. My paper was titled A Face and a Name, Celebrity, Data, and the Cybergothic in Death Note. And in the video, I'm going to throw up some slides that I had in my presentation. I was just curious why this series had such an enduring global popularity. I mean, there's a lot of obvious reasons. But as I was rereading the manga, I realized that every chapter they're staring at computer screens, they're staring at surveillance footage, they're staring at TV screens, they're staring at their cell phones, sending SNS messages. So I just thought that was really fascinating. So that's kind of what I focused on in my paper. I don't want to share too much because I really still want to work on getting this published. And, I'll probably make future videos about this process. But basically, I discussed how they utilize anonymity, personal data, and online or mediated personas. I kind of argue that Kira is kind of a simulacra. He's a title or an image that a lot of people can identify as or act under at the same time. And although it's something Light Yagami takes on in order to carry out certain actions, he can't really escape it at the end of the day without, spoiling anything. So I kind of read Kira as being this postmodern archetype along the lines of Q, like QAnon, Bitcoin, Satoshi, or even the OG We Are Anonymous guys. So in my paper, I discussed the political implications of anonymity and how much anonymity we really do or do not have today. Because as we're seeing every week, there's a new announcement about how we're going to have to attach our personal government IDs to any sort of online account we have or video game service, whatever it is. In my thesis, I actually stressed that the internet can no longer be idealized as a separate world as it was originally imagined, but it is an uncanny reversal or nightmare that is coterminous with our reality. Moving along with the museum here, which I have some footage displaying all sorts of things that I was really blown away by, like this Ashita no Joe original panel from one of the most iconic scenes in all of anime and manga history, and many other things you'll see in a second. I apologize in advance for the quality of the footage. I saw other people taking pictures and kind of using translation apps, but I was scared to take videos because there was a big sign that said don't take pictures or videos. But this is what I got. According to the De Young Museum's website, this exhibition spans 5 decades, including over 600 images from Chiba Tetsuya, Akatsuka Fujio, Takahashi Rumiko, Taniguchi Jiro, Yamazaki Mari, Araki Hirohiko, Yamashita Kazumi, Tegame Gengoro, Yoshinaga Fumi, Ora Eiichiro, and Tanami Keiichi. So a lot of artists. The exhibition was also intentionally set up to be in a counterclockwise loop to mimic the right-to-left reading style of manga. I just thought that was funny that was something they noted on their website. It was intentionally part of the exhibit design. For me, as I was kind of mentioning, the highlights were seeing Chiba Tetsuya, Akatsuka Fujio, and Araki Hirohiko's artwork, especially this JoJo stuff I had always seen online as a teen, and I loved it so much, and it's was an outrageous experience to see it in real life. And they even had some of Araki's ink pens that he uses to illustrate. Some other, fun facts about manga that some of you might know that were shared on the museum website is that they really emphasize that it has multi-layered content using panel frames, reading order, spacing, iconography, sequencing, manpu, and speech bubbles to communicate what they call a visual grammar, and they also describe it as something that's very sensory and visceral. So I thought this was super fascinating because in my panel, I have gone to other panels and conferences about anime and manga, but I really noticed how, in literary studies, you'll often close read a passage, you'll really look at the word choice and see what an author is doing in a specific section. But when it comes to presenting research on manga, you're often close reading the panels. So it's a lot more similar to art criticism, where you're really breaking down the composition of the panels and the other elements that are included there. So, it was just interesting to really see how others go about doing this sort of research. You might have also noticed a clip earlier that showed Moby Dick as illustrated by Junji Ito, which is actually going to be his next project. So as an English major, English program graduate, obviously that appeals to me very much, and I'm really excited to read that when it comes out. I think that is just so hilarious. But the museum also did partner with Junji Ito, and they flew out him and his editor to give a special presentation that was live streamed. So you can see that on their YouTube channel, but I will try to include the link in the description below. But to give you a quick summary, this talk session actually started with an interview with the editor of Junji Ito's works. I wouldn't have thought much of this, but I actually learned from a professor who was presenting at the same conference panel as me that editors actually have a huge amount of sway over how manga is produced. They actually make a lot of major decisions about how the storyline goes, what sort of content is included, what the manga is even about in the first place, what kind of demographics it might try to appeal to. So it actually makes a lot of sense that his editor was there, and it was really exciting to me after getting this extra context to hear what he had to say. So in this talk, he basically described all stories, great stories, as fairy tales. So they have a very careful mix of fact and fiction. They're built on archetypes and stock plot lines. So one example he gave was this animated movie called Chinmoku no Kantai, which is basically a story that has some sort of nuclear submarine and, one small realistic detail that it's based off of, but the rest of it is a sort of fictional war story. But that mix is what makes it so fascinating. He said what makes Junji Ito's work so unique, though, is that everything Junji Ito writes is entirely a fairy tale. It's like he sees it as entirely original and as being, based completely on his own fiction and his own, sort of twisted world, I guess you could say. So that helped put a lot of things into perspective, and it was interesting to hear about how they work together. So Junji Ito began his part of the talk by sharing about his experiences growing up. So he actually really thought about death all the time because his aunt would tell him all these horrifying stories about World War II. And also in this clip right now, you can actually see a display of Junji Ito's artwork next to that of his greatest influence, Kazuo Umezu, who he discussed in this talk as well. So he said that he started reading his horror manga first, and he loved it so much he would go to the bookstore and read any horror manga he could get his hands on. But basically it got to a point where he had read everything that they sold, and there were not new titles coming out quick enough that he really just had to take things into his own hands and start creating his own manga. So that's kind of his backstory behind getting started. Now, unfortunately, I do need to wrap up my little narration here. I'm gonna finish the video by just sharing a bunch of clips of the things that I ate on my trip, all the coffee that I drank, and some of the iconic spots that I was able to visit. I tried to explore as much as I could while I was there, which you should do whenever you go to any academic conference. I am a long-winded academic. I would love to drone on for hours about this sort of stuff, but it's probably best if I just wrap it up now. So if you are interested in anything you heard in this video, please subscribe. I'm planning to release some more in-depth book reviews and discussions of other things I've read, maybe some video essays if I can get around to it, and definitely just some more vlogs of my research process and talking about writing and trying to get papers published. So if any of that actually does sound exciting to you, please stick around and subscribe. I would be so happy to have you here. And you can also subscribe to my Substack at nontent.substack.com. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a great day, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the clips that I have here. Thank you.